All right, welcome to the video. We're doing a review on the Brooks Adrenaline 22s. Just got them in our store, so probably able to purchase a pair and review them for you guys. First running them though, just a 6 mile easy run and workout tomorrow. It's finally getting cold here, or it's like almost mid-December. I have to actually wear layers now, gloves, hats, stuff like that. For a while there, I was actually going shirtless. Almost yesterday I almost went shirtless. Luckily I wore a shirt because it literally dropped. The temperature dropped from like it was like 60s, 70s down to like 40, down to 20 in like a matter of an hour or two. It's just right in the middle of a long run. The wind just picked up, super heavy. Got a cold front something moving in. And now, I'm hoping I get a good sunset out of this, but now, yeah, just back to normal December weather where it should be at. Hope we get some more snow. Our snowpack's pretty bad here in Colorado, so yeah. This is the beginning of the the very long intro to my Brooks Adrenaline 22 review. This is a shoe I probably have worn I wore a couple of editions. I had the 21s, so I can compare to that with the guide rails. And then I had the ones that didn't have guide rails. They have the traditional posting. I think there's like a 13, a 14. I'm pretty sure I had a 17 at one point. So I've been in a couple models. I'll compare all the models, let you guys know what I think. I'll mention what they changed and all that too. So, all right, stay tuned, guys. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Brooks Adrenaline 21 versus the Brooks Adrenaline 22 here. So the Brooks Adrenaline 22 just came out or was supposed to come out November 1st, and we just got our men's one pretty recently actually, like maybe a week ago max. Yeah, pretty fresh. The girls haven't even shown up in our store yet, or the women's shoes haven't shown up in our store, so we still only have the men's shoe. Still working on getting those women's shoes. Hopefully we'll get those pretty soon here. So just so you guys know, this review is not based off of the exact specifications that the brand has released or anything like that. I haven't been able to really measure anything as well because of, I just don't know why they just don't have them out. I can't find any information on this thing anywhere. I've heard that some weight things and like maybe it's a little bit lighter than this shoe and whatnot, but very minimal. Haven't heard much. Let's just say that much. I've watched a couple reviews, and a lot of it's just speculation and what people think and what they've kind of noticed and the differences and all that. Couldn't get any tech sheets. I've been looking for tech sheets, couldn't find any. So I don't like to do this. I don't like to do reviews where I'm not giving you guys the exact specifications, but I'm going to give you guys. I've run in this shoe quite a bit. I've also run in this shoe a whole lot more, just because I've run through a pair of these. And I'm still working on a pair of these guys. Just got them recently because they just released. But I've run a good amount of mileage in them already, at least 30 miles. So I'll give you guys just a kind of a general idea of the Brooks Adrenaline 22, what I thought, my thoughts are, and kind of read some reviews, what other people said as well. All right, so before I fully dive into these two shoes, I want to just go over the new thing I'm kind of doing. So I'm actually going to have a way to sign up to my email list, and what you guys will get in the email list is basically a bunch of coaching advice. I'll post guides for like marathons, 10Ks, like your first marathon guide, what you need to bring, or what I recommend to bring to a marathon, not even if it's your first. Like 10K guide, I'll have little training tips here and there, like how do you, like drills to do, and it'll just be stuff like that. I'll put that all in an email list, and then I'll also offer little discounts and promos for my coaching, and you guys can find out more about my coaching through the email list. So if you guys want to catch that kind of stuff, sign up for my email list. If you guys want to just catch the typical videos I do with a lot of shoe reviews, maybe some vlogging stuff, and some training tips, but those are kind of all sporadic and not as organized as my email list would be. You guys can hit the subscribe button below for the YouTube videos, and then the notification bell will let you guys know when I post new videos. So I was doing that daily vlog for a while, and it was just too much. I couldn't edit every day, and I have a lot going on right now, a lot going on with my videography business and stuff like that. So I stopped doing that. I'm kind of going to do maybe a couple of vlogs here and there, but I'm going to stick to the shoe reviews, I guess. I keep going back and forth on all this, but shoe reviews is kind of what I know and kind of what I do. So I'll do a lot of those, and then more training advice as well. But for a good amount of that training advice, if you want a ton of that training advice, sign up for the email list. It's all going to be in there. And then all my coaching stuff will be in there too. Maybe I'll do some shoe stuff, but I'm going to, for now, stick with the shoe stuff. It's going to be my YouTube videos mainly. So yeah, sign up for the email list. Links down below. Okay, so kind of diving in, some things I noticed in some reviews, and then actually my personal opinion as well of what I've kind of noticed, but it doesn't make any sense because I've kind of compared these two shoes a whole lot, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But people have been saying the guide rails have been digging in more than the 21. Maybe they got a wide width in the 21, they didn't get a wide width in the 22 or something like that. That's always possible. I see that all the time, people coming in saying that kind of stuff as well. So that could be the possibility. But for myself, I actually went in a narrow in the 21, 11.5 narrow, and I'm an 11 regular width in the 22 because we didn't get narrows in, so I just got the regular width in the 22. So I haven't been able to compare the narrow to the narrow. Did go down a half size, so that can make it feel a little more narrow, but I felt like it was significantly more, like it feels just like my other one, just maybe not as long. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes with customers, for example, I'm fitting them in a regular width and a narrow, but the narrow is half a size down. That's a very common thing. So honestly, I don't know. Some people have complained about getting blisters and the guide rails being too aggressive on the 22 compared to the 21. I don't know, maybe it's the guide rails. If you kind of compare the bottom of the shoes, line them up perfectly, on the bottom I've noticed there's not much of a difference. Now that's not the best way to do it. Another good way to do it is actually hit it on the heels here, come around, and you want the toes to kind of line up as we go into the top here. And it does a pretty good job there. So what that tells me, they're probably the same width, honestly. Maybe it's something inside the shoe changed. The heel counter might feel a little more narrow. I don't know what it is. I've heard things that these should feel wider in the toe box. I don't feel that way, but again, I'm in an 11 as opposed to 11.5, but in the narrow. So don't know exactly. It's kind of my thoughts on it and kind of some reviews I read on the shoe already, so that I saw on Brooks' website and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, let's dive into the upper a little bit more. So first thing I noticed right away, heel counter. There's a huge heel counter difference in these two shoes. We've got I feel like this new heel counter is maybe a little bit more narrow, definitely more structured if you ask me. I don't know. Maybe not too much more structured. We took away these weird little pad deals right here. That's completely gone in the heel counter now. I feel like it's a more secure heel counter fit, but maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just because it's more narrow, honestly. Maybe it's just this particular shoe I'm looking at. Sometimes there can be some slight differences, but that's my opinion on the shoe there. I saw one guy mention that they have a gusseted tongue. Well, 21 has a gusseted tongue as well. So I don't know what he was talking about. So they both have gusseted tongues. If you reach inside, you can feel the little piece connecting to the bottom there. Then they are also saying one piece for the midsole. I almost think both of them have one piece. They're definitely different, a little bit different structure to the midsole. And it actually felt like this 22 felt a little bit stiffer. But again, 21 I've been wearing for a while, so I've gotten used to it being pretty broken down. The 22 is a little bit more fresh. But I'll go into that a little bit more when I talk about the outsole and the midsole more directly. So last kind of couple things, the mesh obviously being just a little bit on both shoes on the top there. The laces, it's very mixed on the lacing. Lacing is always a tricky thing. It's I feel like one of the most updated things in some shoes. Saucony's laces are spot on in my opinion. Super soft, kind of spongy, and have a little bit of stretch to them, which is similar to the Brooks Adrenaline 21 laces, which I really like. Less of a fan of the new laces. They're a little bit flatter. So typically they're a little bit flatter. They can put a little bit less stress, I feel like, sometimes when they're flatter because they have a little bit more surface area there, a little bit less stress on the top of the foot. But in terms of staying tied, I don't think flat laces stay tied, or in my opinion, they don't stay as tied, or it's not as easy to keep them tied as the kind of like spaghetti feeling, stretchy, soft laces that we see on the Sauconys and the old Brooks Adrenaline 21 here. That's something I'm like, I didn't really enjoy the flatter laces, but some people might. So It's kind of similar to the Ghost 14, I believe, has those flatter laces as well. They kind of just took the Ghost 14 and stuck all of those things into the Brooks Adrenaline 22 from my understanding. So looking at, oh, I didn't even mention, this is a stability shoe as I go into the midsole. So we're talking about the Brooks Ghost, which is their neutral version of this. This is the Brooks Adrenaline GTS, which stands for Go To Stability. If you look at all Brooks shoes now, the GTS stands for Go To Stability. Before, like 2 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, GTS, the only GTS model that I remember there being was the Brooks Adrenaline GTS, which stood for the Go To Shoe, not Go To Stability. More recently, they changed the Launch, or the Ravenna, to the Launch GTS, and they have the regular Launch, which is the neutral version of the Launch GTS, which is the stability version, which now stands for Go To Stability. Once they did that, they now changed it to Go To Stability instead of Go To Shoe. So a little fun fact for you guys there. When I first got to run specialty, that's what we would refer to GTS being the go-to shoe from Brooks. So how do they offer stability? Well, same in both shoes. I feel like they've changed the guide rails maybe ever so slightly. Like this outside guide rail on the outside right here looks a little bit bigger, or maybe the heel's a little more bulky in this new 22. I don't know. Maybe that's what's adding to that extra rigidity that people are complaining about, or that outside guide rail throwing people into this inside guide rail a little bit more, or medial side of the shoe here. This lateral guide rail throwing people into the medial. I don't know what's going on, because that's normally where people hit strike first, is the outside. So if you have a more aggressive guide rail, it's going to throw you more inwards as you're coming into your midfoot or ball of your foot area. So that could be what's causing some of that extra pressure that people are feeling in the guide rails. I don't know. Again, it's all speculation at this point. It's kind of trying to do my best and kind of assess maybe what issues people are running into. Density of the foams, maybe they change the density of the foams. That could also cause some issues. If you have a denser foam or more foam or something, that could make that guide rail dig in to the arch as well a little bit more. So looking at all that, that's kind of some concerns with the shoe, I guess, in terms of the midsole, that midsole being the foam piece. But yeah, that's, I guess if you guys haven't experienced guide rails, maybe I'll just briefly go over them. I think I've done a video on this. I think that was actually a couple of videos ago. I talked about all these different stability shoes. But guide rails are basically, you sit down into those guide rails. So you sit down in there and then down low inside the shoe there. And those guide rails come up on the side of your foot. They're supposed to help kind of guide the foot. Some people say correct you unless you need to be corrected and you start to turn in a little bit too far. In my opinion, I've actually seen, since this guide rail on the inside's a little bit bigger, I feel like, and this outside one's not as big, I feel like people, if they don't need the stability shoe, it actually does overcorrect them a little bit. So where other shoes traditionally had posting, which is denser foam on the inside of the shoe, prevents this rolling in motion, I feel like, or maybe they've actually added some density to the Brooks Adrenaline. I don't know. They have an Aerial and the Beast, I believe. They still have that denser piece, and they did in the Addiction for a while. But those are the motion control versions of these two shoes. Like, I feel like you can overcorrect somebody in this shoe. A lot of people are like, this is always the safe bet to choose. I mean, I'm like, it's not always a safe bet. It's still a stability shoe, so it doesn't work well with insoles as well. So an insole, if you try to set an insole down there and it hits one of those guide rails, it's going to sit off-centered. So you don't want to be using this shoe with insoles. I highly do not recommend using the shoe with insoles. If you want to stick with Brooks, find a good shoe. A good Brooks shoe to use with insoles, try the Brooks Dyad. So the Brooks Dyad is what we call linear elastic shoe. I can go into that in a whole other video. I think I've done it in other videos. Brooks Dyad, if you're using insoles. If you're using insoles with Ghost or this shoe, cause issues. These shoes can cause issues with guide rails. So this one, even more than the Ghost, because the stability shoe has those guide rails, where the Ghost, it just runs super narrow through here. I don't recommend them for insoles as much. You can get away with insoles in both of these shoes, depending on the individual and the insole you're using. But why take that risk? Why buy this expensive shoe and then have issues with it? So don't recommend insoles in this shoe. Didn't recommend insoles in this shoe. So something to keep in mind if you guys are just like shopping online. It's always recommend going into a run specialty store, figuring out what's going to work best for you. So I've also heard, let's just kind of move on to the outsole of the shoe. So I've heard that they've increased the density in the heel area, where the forefoot's still pretty that tacky blown rubber. More blown rubber. I think it's still blown rubber all the way around. And then the 21, I don't remember if they did that with the 21 with the heel, but I don't think they did. A lot of people complain about Brooks because the outsole wears out pretty quick because of the blown rubber being so soft and tacky. It has more grip, but what you exchange when you get more grip and more tacky rubber is that rubber will wear a little bit quicker. But by the time your rubber wears out, honestly, you probably should be replacing the shoe because the foam will typically wear out before that blown rubber does in Brooks shoes. So don't be wearing your shoes down past the rubber. If you're doing that, you're probably already due for new shoes. Good way to test, press in through here. Should be pretty rigid through here. If you compare a new one versus the old one, you'll definitely see a difference where the old one starts collapsing easily on itself. So something to keep in mind, I feel like that rubber might be adding some stiffness to the shoe. Something I feel like is adding stiffness to the 22. I have not enjoyed the ride of the 22 as much as the 21. Unfortunately, I love the 21's ride. Maybe it's because I broke it in a little bit more than I have with the 22, but I'm already like 30 to 50 miles deep in the 22, and I'm still having issues with it. It hasn't broken in, or it's just, that's how the shoe is. It's just super stiff feeling. It feels clunky to me. It feels heavy. I feel like I can run fairly quietly with the 21, but then I hear a slapping noise with the 22. Maybe it's the density in the outsole. Maybe it's they did something with the midsole of the foam. I don't know. Again, it is a little bit wider width too. I feel like the base is, like this heel is just a little more clunky and bulky in the 22. So not a huge fan of the 22 so far. It's an all right shoe. The 21 I actually enjoyed a lot because it helped a lot with my plantar fascia issues I was dealing with last year. So I was just kind of swapping between Hoka and the Brooks Adrenaline here. And it really did help. It was actually just as good as the Hokas, I feel like, or pretty close to the Hokas in terms of relieving that plantar fascia pain. It's a higher drop, so that's kind of one reason why I chose it for plantar fascia issues, and then also the guide rails kind of help as well. They kind of stole the guide rail idea from Hoka, to be honest. Hoka, you already sit down in the shoes kind of like guide rails, and then Brooks all of a sudden adds guide rails after Hoka's been around for a while, and they started getting a lot of success. Success. So maybe it's, I don't know, like the higher drop probably helps as well, 12 millimeter drop. So it's typically one of your higher drops, one of the highest drops you can have. There are some 13 millimeter drops, maybe some more that I don't know about. But Asics, for example, will do 13 millimeter drops in some of their shoes for women only. I think they're higher cushion models typically. Brooks Adrenaline, 12 millimeter drops. So that means from the heel down to the toe, you're going to have 12 millimeters difference, which is about, if you take 12 dimes back on top of each other, that's about 12 millimeters difference. Right, not a huge difference there. The stack height's a moderate stack height. I don't remember the exact numbers of the stack height for the 21. Well, the 22 I couldn't even find that information on, which is what this whole video is about. But I think it's similar to the Brooks Adrenaline 21. Maybe, if anything, I would say maybe more. I don't know. It's millimeters of difference we're talking here. I can't tell fully because, again, it's like a dime's worth of difference in these. And I don't have any fancy tools to measure this yet. Maybe I'll get some for later videos. But it's kind of irrelevant, really. Like generally, it's a pretty moderate stack height. I would say maybe a little bit more on the upper end, if anything. Still using the DNA Loft foam. They haven't changed that in the midsole. Even though I feel like it's a little bit more stiff and rigid, so maybe they did something with it where they changed the density a little bit. I don't know, not positive exactly on that. So it's not as plush as I like it to feel. Thinking about the Brooks Adrenaline, I think of a little bit more of a plush shoe. I feel like they kind of let me down a little bit on the plush aspect of it. But again, I like more minimal shoes, but I don't like bulky shoes. If I have a bulky shoe, it better be pretty plush. And I don't feel like this Brooks Adrenaline 22 is very plush for being so bulky. A little bit of disappointment there. It doesn't feel snappy either to me. I've heard that they changed the rubber to make it feel more snappy, but all I hear is this louder slap on the ground with this shoe for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's that size difference, so maybe it's not the shoe's fault in any way. I've heard they changed flex grooves. I know the rubber pattern, the tread pattern on the outsole is definitely different, so maybe that was contributing to the slapping, or that denser outsole in the heel portion of the shoe where people typically see a lot of wear. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the shoe so far. Maybe that changes. Maybe I'll do a video when I'm 100 miles in. Maybe I'll do a video when I'm 200 miles in if it changes, if my opinion changes. Wow. So, yeah, not a huge fan of this guy. Kind of a letdown for the most part. I like the 21 a lot more. I like the laces a lot more. I like the feel of the shoe. I just felt like it was a little bit easier landing on the shoe. I was a lot quieter, which is a good sign. You don't want to hear that slapping noise when you're running. If you hear the slapping noise when you're running, you're either running, you probably need to do some form correction, and you could be hitting on your heels a little bit too much, or you could be in a shoe that's just kind of clunky, and I normally don't hear that. I'm normally a very quiet runner. Like I actually sneak up on some people sometimes by accident, and then kind of they get startled even because they don't hear me coming. So I have to normally like on your left or something. But sometimes, you know, if it's busy, it's kind of I'm just weaving in and out. So yeah, a little bit loud, a little bit clunky. Yeah, just not a huge fan. It's kind of rambling at this point. So I guess I'll end the video here. If you guys enjoyed the video, want to see more videos like this, but with a little bit more detail in terms of the specs on the shoes. But I typically will pull up those spec sheets and get them from the reps and stuff like that. So if you guys want to catch more videos like that, hit the subscribe button below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. Been working Run Specialty for 5 or 6 years now. I can't even remember anymore. So and I've always been kind of a shoe junkie, I guess if you call it. So always been kind of fascinated by the shoes and super interested in them. So if you guys have any questions though, just drop in the comments below. If you guys want to find out where you can get these. Run Specialty stores, the inventory is crazy everywhere, so just try your best. And I don't have any links to these yet, but maybe I'll start doing that if you guys are interested. Just let me know in the comments below as well. So I'll catch you guys later, and have a good one.